All right, today's going to be a little short because it may not look cold out there, but it is freezing. So, excuse my mess again. I got to clean this up. So here we have two, because I've been mentioning I've had code 32 randomly pop up, and the first time it was the vacuum line that was coming from here, this third one coming over to here, and it had a crack in it, and of course, so I'm going to back up a little bit here, I guess. So the EGR control valve, which this is all removed from a bracket now because I've taken it out of the car. This is actually the solenoid, and all this really is a pass-through for the solenoid, and then there's a switch in here that closes two contacts when this receives vacuum. So when this commands this to actually send vacuum to the valve, which is the second one, if you can kind of see it. See if I can get closer. There you go. So you can see it there. So here's your vacuum source. This is the one that goes to the valve, and this little ear off here goes to the switch built into that. So this will command its specific percentages, which is basically just a duty cycle, a percentage of on-off. When it commands vacuum to send to the valve, it's also allowing vacuum to go through there, which goes through there. It closes a contact and it tells the ECM, yep, there's vacuum going to the valve. Everything's working just fine. Code 32 could mean a bunch of things. It could mean this, the switch inside here is bad. Chances are that's probably not it. I don't think I've ever seen one of these go bad over the years, that switch part, but it could happen. You could have a wire broken here, which is almost never the case, but it usually means that the vacuum that's coming from here is not closing that contact switch. So either the valve itself is trash, which you can put a vacuum pump on the valve, and if it opens and holds and doesn't leak itself back down, it's fine. Usually I like to pull the vacuum line off from here and plug your vacuum pump into this line going to the valve. This way it also checks the lines going to the valve. And then check, obviously, vacuum on this and go into that. So the most common problem that you're going to have when it comes to this is that, now I don't know if anybody else has had this problem. I've taken the back half off of this. You'll see, when you look at yours, it's going to be really, really long. And then there's a vacuum line coming out. There's a air filter on this, and there's a line coming off of this and goes over to your air cleaner. So I've removed that, and I'll tell you why here in a second. So because this can be open, it really doesn't matter. The problem you're going to have is when you take this apart, you can kind of see where the line was. These usually are filled with water, and I don't know how, but they do. So I took this one apart. I pulled the back off. I pulled this end off here, which you can kind of see the tabs are still a little bit bent because I just threw it back together real quick just so it was assembled. There's a plate in here which blocks these two off. There's a spring, and then you have an electronic solenoid with a bunch of windings on it. I pulled that apart. This thing was filled with water, and I found a broken winding on this. So I resoldered it thinking, well, maybe that'll work. The chances are pretty slim, but I tried it anyway. So I soldered it, I put it back in. It did not work. No surprise there. So these, of course, are specific to the Fiero because of the bracket and this end that's on them. But a lot of other 2/8 and 60-degree V6s use a very similar setup, just with different brackets, which I think I have. Yeah, there's a couple brackets here. So you got that one. That's the back half of another solenoid. There's another bracket, and a couple of vacuum lines. I just got a bunch of junk just floating around. I actually need to throw all that away, along with these. Yeah, and this is the original one, or another one that I used that came off of a 2.8 liter late 3rd gen Camaro. And this one is just trashed. It has been sitting for so long. You see the inside of this one got full of water too. And it's trashed. So I found another one that was an NOS 60-degree V6 that had this kind of style, but it had that end. And you see that there's no T. Now there's a couple things you can do. You can either put a small piece of hose, a vacuum T, and then run that over and run it over. And you can just plug and play it, put it back into the original Fiero bracket, and it'll work just fine. Or you can do what I did and take this end off of the original and put it on the other one that had this on it. Make sure you have the orientation correct. And it is notched. If I can see it again here. See, they're different thicknesses of those plastic tabs. That one's got a notch and the big one on it, and it lines up obviously there. So you'll see how it lines up. It'll kind of only go in one way, but you might be able to force it 180 out, but I don't really think you want to do that because then the source vacuum's in the wrong place. So I did that. Everything inside this is exactly the same. This isn't different at all. The connector's the same. The key that's in here is the same. So I ended up doing that. I took apart the one that wasn't correct, disassembled all the brackets off of it, took this piece off of the original Fiero one, and then put it on the new one and plugged it all in. and let's go for a ride on that. All right, after getting all that done, of course my passenger door is open, but you know, that's a different problem. So what you're looking at on a scan tool is you're going to want to look at, God, if I can get in there, duty cycle will give you a percentage, and then vacuum, yes or no. If this has any kind of percentage at all, this needs to have a yes. So, and it won't stay yes. So if you're at 50%, this is going to cycle back and forth, yes and no. It'll be pretty evenly. The higher this is, the faster that'll cycle. So after rebuilding that EGR valve and doing what I did, taking it on a ride, I can't hold that and this and the steering wheel at the same time while driving, but I'll try to show you here if I can actually make that happen. Maybe I'll have somebody hold the camera for me. I'll try to show it to you that now when this is given a duty cycle, this is not staying stuck at no like it was before. So now we're actually getting it. It's there. There's no check engine light, and I've been driving it now for, I don't know, I've probably got 60 miles on it since I've done it, and it's still holding good. So hopefully, because I know these EGR control solenoids are no longer available and they haven't been for quite some time, maybe somebody will decide to make a factory replacement one for the Fiero. If not, we do have options. You don't have to settle for the Fiero one. You just have to modify some ones that are out there now if you can find them, because even those are getting hard to find. Junkyards are gone and used parts are becoming a problem, so NOS ones are almost unobtainium. But here we are, and yeah, it worked. So let me see if I can get some video of that for you. There you go. See it saying yes, and you got a percentage, and then it flips to no. So as long as you're getting this, that switch that's part of that EGR control solenoid is telling you, yeah, we see what you're trying to do. This is kind of what the computer's telling it to do, and this is whether it sees that it's actually doing it. So of course now I'm coming to a red light, you're not going to be able to see it, and this is the world's longest red light. Let's see if it'll change here in a second. Maybe we can get a little bit more of this so you can kind of see. Oh, might be changing. This is going to be nice. I can actually show you that it's working now. There we go. Okay. There we go. So yeah, 52. This should change. Yep, there it goes. So every time that says yes, that solenoid sensor, that 2-wire sensor that's connected to it with the vacuum line, is seeing that what this is asking for is happening. So it's actually opening and closing the valve, which is keeping its duty cycle there, so you can see that it's working, which is kind of nice. And then it drops to 0 when it'll only do it when you're at part throttle. Like right now I'm coasting, so the throttle's closed. It will not try to command that open, otherwise it would run really rough. It's almost like when you're sitting with the car in park and you open the EGR valve, the car will die if you try to do it manually, because the air-fuel mixture is just way off. So anytime the throttle is at closed position, it won't tell it what to do. See, now that we're open, there it goes. The only other time that it won't do that is at wide open throttle. It disables the EGR at wide open too, but we're not going to do that right now because we don't need